everybody. Happy Friday. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the Lymph Lounge, the podcast about cultivating a state of flow in our bodies and in our lives. So sit back and relax because today I am sharing with you my take on cosmetic injections, some support ideas for weaning off of them if that's what you are looking to do, and my top well-aging alternative to cosmetic injections, Gua Sha, with a Gua Sha guide. So let's get into it. Today I am tackling a topic I literally talk about almost every day, or at least every week with clients. And I want to share with you my take on cosmetic injections, so botulinum toxin and filler injections. And I want to tell you my own personal experiences as well as my reasons for not getting them. I feel like this trend is getting so big and informed consent seems to get bypassed a lot. And I feel that it is now more important than ever to share more of our own personal opinions and experiences and perspectives on it, just so that those around us don't feel like they're alone. And first, just a few disclaimers here. If you do get botulinum toxin injections or filler injections, I absolutely respect your choice. This episode is for those who, like me, don't really feel like injecting their faces, but feel this pressure either from social media or the internet or even from their peers around them. Because at the end of the day, I work with a lot of women who don't want those injections. And this is what I hear a lot from them. And I just want to say that if you do feel this pressure, like you're supposed to get injections, even though you don't really want to, or you don't really feel like you need them, you're not alone. I have learned over the years that it's important for me to tell people that I don't do them, because often people assume I do. And trust me, if you're aging well, I have noticed it more and more over the years. The first thing that people will go to is that you do injections. So I always make sure that I tell people that I don't. And a lot of people are surprised. So that's where we're at, right? I find it to be a little bit sad at this point, but it is what it is. And when I say I don't plan on getting them either, a lot of people just say something like, well, why not? Or, oh, really? I do get them and I love it. Why aren't you getting them? And it's getting real out there. And very often we can be made to feel like it is not normal for us to not want to go along with it. And all I'm here to say is, if you don't want them, but you feel this pressure, I know how you feel, and you're not alone. I want to talk about this today. I want to share my experiences and my reasons for not getting them, my own personal reasons, and maybe you will relate to some of it. And maybe it will help you solidify your discernment when it comes to interventions that affect your face and your body. And I want to do this openly and respectfully. There is no judgment whatsoever. Everybody makes their own decisions. Everybody has their own journeys. But I do think it is important that if we don't want them, that we also have a seat at the table. And also, I want to say, I am not against slowing down aging. I am, however, very concerned about how it impacts my future health and my future appearance. But for me, I want to use regenerative approaches, and I want to create a space for all the women that want the same. Because I have helped many, many women unsubscribe from that idea that we need to do drastic things so we don't age. And to embrace the process of aging beautifully while looking after the health of their tissues. So first, my relationship with cosmetic injections has actually evolved over time. I was pro cosmetic injections until my early 30s, I would say. My very first job in my 20s was a trainer for a dermal cosmetic company. And I had to present to many doctors and medical spas in the Atlantic areas the products that we had. And that was part of my job. So I was immersed in that fascinating world of aesthetic medicine. And it was still pretty on the down low back then. We're talking 15 years ago, right? And I was introduced to the concept of preventative Botox at that time. And I couldn't wait to start, to be honest, because I was so scared of aging. And I thought it was the only thing I could do to prevent wrinkles or to prevent aging. So fast forward to a few years later, I was an aesthetics teacher. And one day it was a storm day and only a few students showed up. Obviously, we were still open and I wanted to do something fun for them. And the school was attached to a medical spa and a doctor that does injections, of course. That morning, she was there, but the clients were all canceling, obviously, because it was a storm. So the doctor said to me, "Why don't you get a student who was planning on getting injections and I can do a demo for your students?" And I thought, well, how fun it would be for them. And I had a few mature students in my class that year. And I remembered one did mention to me that she wanted to get injections at some point, and she was there that day. So I asked her, and she said yes. So we all proceeded to gather in that doctor's room, and she performed the injections. Now, while that was going on, I suddenly got this pit in my gut. And you know, that gut feeling that something was not right, this sense of dread almost. And when we have gut feelings in today's society, we're so quick to dismiss them or not even listen to them. Anyway, I was at the time not listening to my gut feelings. So I just kind of brushed it off, and never thought of it again. But then what really troubled me, and this is when I started digging a little on the topic, is when I did a facial demo later on in the year. And when we did facial demos, I would practice on a lot of different faces to show it a lot of different techniques. And when I went from face to face and landed on the student that had injections, the muscles on the forehead felt so thin and weak, and I just didn't know how to explain it. It really struck me. As soon as I touched it, it felt off. When you work with so many faces and manipulate tissues, you get used to feeling when something is different or something is off very quick. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm about to start preventative botulinum toxin injections, and maybe I should dig a little on this. I owe that to myself at least. And the information I found kind of overwhelmed me at the time, and it totally challenged my opinions on those injections. So today I want to list my top 3 reasons why I don't want to do cosmetic injections. Reason 1, it is a toxin and there are risks. And I know some of you, even if I say there are risks, you won't be scared, and that's okay. We all make our own choices. Like I said earlier, we all pick our own poison, right? It's all about risk and rewards, and everybody will be different. I personally am not ready to take the risk that that toxin spreads. And it's a toxin that stops muscle contraction. There is a black box warning on the drug itself, so I encourage you to read that and decide if it's for you or not. Because at the end of the day, it is a toxin. I did read somewhere at some point that those injections are not the bacteria itself, so they're not dangerous or not as dangerous, and it's just a protein that the bacteria produces, but the toxin is the protein. What is injected is the toxin that blocks the nerve signal that makes the muscle contract. So this is my first reason. It is a toxin and I don't really want that in my body. Reason 2, I want to maintain my lymph drainage intact. Thank you. I'm sure it doesn't surprise anybody here. What helps the lymph move into our facial tissues to detoxify our tissues and regenerate our tissues? What is that? Muscle contractions. Muscle contractions are an essential part of moving our lymph. And additionally, approximately 30% of our lymph flows through our head and neck at any given time. So there is a lot more lymph circulated in that area than the rest of our body. So it's really not for me because of that reason. And reason number 3, I want to maintain my muscle mass in my face. So talking about muscle contractions and muscles, another fact is if a muscle doesn't move, it atrophies. And that can make the face look older than it is as well. Loss of volume, right? With less volume. So personally, I don't want to affect my muscle health in any way, shape, or form because muscle mass is important, especially as we're aging. And the face is no different. It is a key component of health. I want my face to stay balanced. When some muscles are not doing their job, other muscles will have to compensate. The face is no different than the body. We have a lot of small muscles in the face. And what do you think happens when you do that to the face? When you stop certain muscles from moving properly, other muscles will have to compensate. It is well known that the nose can get larger, your temples can get bigger, because those muscles that we don't inject, that are near the other muscles that are being injected, are compensating. So they will become bigger, denser, tighter, with more tension. The injections are usually concentrated in the middle of the face. So the muscles in the periphery of your face can have a tendency to get bigger and have more tension in them because they are compensating for those that cannot move properly. And personally, I really want my facial features to stay as natural as possible and stay balanced. So these are my reasons for botulinum A toxin injections. And I thought it would be also good to talk about fillers because for me personally, fillers come with its own set of reasons why I don't want to get them. And when I did start thinking about my reasons for not getting fillers for this episode, I also wanted to do a little bit of research. And to be honest, I hadn't done any really deep research for several years about fillers. And I found so much new literature that has come up, especially in the last 3 to 4 years. So I'm going to share a lot of that with you today. All the links will be in the blog post associated with this episode. So I am going to share. So I also have three top reasons as well to why I personally don't want to get fillers. The first one is it can migrate, and this has been proven. So foreign body reactions to the fillers can occur months or even years after injections because it has moved around. To me, I always felt like there was a risk of the filler moving because your jaw is moving when you talk, you have muscle moving in your face. There is no way to me that it cannot move. So I found a couple of interesting articles, and I'm going to link them all in the blog post associated with this podcast at lymphinitiatives.com. The first one is they did some MRIs, and they found that fillers may last a lot longer than we commonly believe. Of all the patients that participated in the study, the 10 patients that had filler more than 2 years ago, all 10 showed persistence of the filler. Still, I have also included a case of the migration of filler from nose to forehead. So that patient in that article, she had not undergone filler injections on the forehead at all, or the glabella, and that's where it ended up. So this phenomenon can be explained by migration of the filler. And the third link about migration is a foreign body granuloma after the use of dermal fillers. It's kind of a little bit of an explanation of what happens when the body starts attacking the filler, which I thought was a very, very well-rounded article. But in that second article, what I find interesting is they say, and I'm going to quote, filler migration can occur by several mechanisms, including poor injection technique, either high volume or high pressure injection, from massage of the area, muscle activity, gravity, anti-gravity, pressure-induced displacement, lymphatic spread, and intravascular injection. So those are the main articles that really stood out to me about filler migration. I wasn't sure at first if it actually stayed in the body because, hyaluronic acid, it's already in the body. The body probably processes it just like our own, right? But when you think about it, you're injecting it where it's not natural. So you're injecting high quantities of it, not necessarily where you would naturally find it in the body or where you certainly would not find it that much in those areas. So some of you might think, well, okay, if it's more permanent than it seems, I can just get it. And then if I want to get rid of it, I can get hyaluronidase injections. And hyaluronidase, it's an enzyme that dissolves hyaluronic acid. Now, hyaluronic acid is an important component of the extracellular matrix. So the extracellular matrix is the substance that plumps up your skin, that plumps up your tissues, that hydrates your tissues, that your cells kind of bathe in. But for the purpose of dissolving fillers, it gets injected where the filler was injected, of course. And the half-life of hyaluronidase injections is 1 day or less. So it's really not long, but this is just me personally. Is there a potential, even with the short half-life of less than a day, that hyaluronidase could do some damage beyond where the filler is injected, perhaps. And if something that is designed to dissolve hyaluronic acid is injected in my skin, I'm not 100% convinced that it will leave my own hyaluronic acid alone. And I have also included an article here that explains really well that process. If you want to learn more about hyaluronidase and its implications, you're welcome to read more about it. So that's the first reason. Reason number 2, I don't want any foreign matter that is going to press on nerves or even on blood vessels or lymph vessels. Let's not forget, again, it is a high quantity of a certain material that is injected all at once. So it will take some space in the tissues. We have 5 different nerve endings in the skin, and some nerve endings are higher up in the skin and some are deeper in the skin. And I just don't want to risk pressing or negatively impacting those nerves. Which brings me actually to reason number 3. I also don't want to press on my lymph vessels or blood vessels. Again, it always comes back to the lymph, right? As you know, I am big on lymph. I am big on lymph drainage and maintaining optimal lymph drainage all throughout the body. And because lymph vessels are located very superficially in the skin, so the skin lymph vessels are very superficial, of course you have deeper ones, but there is a lot on the surface. I wouldn't want to affect that in any way. I want my lymph drainage to remain intact. I don't want to do anything that could risk affecting the lymph drainage and also blood flow in my face. I want the maximum nutrition to reach every little millimeter of tissue. So there you have it. Those are my top reasons why I don't want to get cosmetic injections. They each have their own set of reasons. And that's a little bit of the background as well of what I saw with my own eyes, of what filler and Botox were doing to the tissues, where they get injected at. And that's kind of what made me not want to get them. I hope that if you're like me and don't feel like getting those injections, but you do feel the pressure of society or social media or your peers, that it eases some of that pressure and makes you feel better about your decision. In today's featured topic, I want to share with you some support ideas on how to wean off cosmetic injections. And again, just a quick disclaimer. First, I have never done injections and do not plan on doing them. So I am coming from a place of what I know about what cosmetic injections do to our tissues, to our muscles, to our nerves, and even psychologically. And I also come from a place of having witnessed and helped many women wean off cosmetic injections over the years. And I'm going to share with you, to my best knowledge, what I would do personally from everything that I know, everything I have experienced in the industry so far, but also working with others. I also want to preface this by saying that I know the topic of cosmetic injections can be triggering for many. Just remember that I was pro injections. I was excited to get them until I had some things happen in my life and on my journey that made me pay attention. And in this season of life, I feel like I want to share all of that. And having those conversations to me is a deeper conversation, and it needs to be had. Now, let's talk about some example of support ideas if you are considering weaning off cosmetic injections. So the first thing I would do is track my social media consumption. There is growing evidence that the more time you spend on social media, the more at risk you are from suffering from various mental health disorders, especially when it comes to beauty standards. With all those filters that kind of alter your real appearance. So that's probably the first thing I would do, is to track my social media and make sure I am the least amount possible on social media or exposed to those beauty standards. Then I would try to surround myself with women who will support my choice and try to join groups or communities that support well aging. I feel like that would be a very important part, that I would need to surround myself with well-aging people and also well-aging content all around me. You know, we're bombarded with anti-aging, quote unquote, content all day, everywhere. And to offset that, we absolutely have to make the conscious effort to surround ourselves with as much well-aging stuff as possible. You know, when you get in your beginning of your 30s, you kind of start thinking about, oh, my body is aging, my skin is aging. I wonder, what it will look like. So just to make a conscious effort to try to offset all the anti-aging stuff out there. So, surround yourself with people and content all around you that is all for well aging. Another thing also I think I would do is, if I had a magnifying mirror, I would get rid of it. That's something actually that I got rid of years ago, just so I don't look at myself too close. It's not a realistic way to look at ourselves. Then I would probably also hang up positive body affirmations and well-aging affirmations in the bedroom and the bathroom. These would be the first things I would see when I wake up. Also, something I would like to touch on in this segment is the concept called perception drift. And of course, I also included an article on that, and that article came out in 2019. Perception drift is the concept of a patient's perception of their beauty and how this perception changes after cosmetic procedures. And it is a very complicated matter, and it is also related to body dysmorphic disorder. So in this emerging field of study, the researchers believe that some cosmetic patients have temporary imbalances in their global and local processing after their procedure about their appearance. And by treating a perceived flaw, and it is only perceived, practitioners create a change in the appearance that enhances local processing of the appearance. So it affects how you see yourself, how you view yourself, how you see your features, and maybe previously insignificant or ignored flaws are then fixated on, and a new baseline is set. So every time you get a top up or a new procedure, your baseline changes. And that's what is the perception drift, where the patient continuously develops new baselines. It's never enough. And this is why the overfilled don't see it. So me personally, I don't want to end up overfilled and where I'm the only one not seeing it. Your baseline is at a certain point, and when you stop, you kind of regress to a previous baseline. And this is very important to be prepared for psychologically for what will be happening in this area when you do decide to wean off cosmetic injections. And to make sure that you plan for psychological or mental health support in that area. But in the meantime, you can certainly equip yourself with tools that are going to help counteract the effect that cosmetic injections had on your tissues, whether it was for weeks or months or years, or even if it was just one time. And my top 3 for that, of course, lymph drainage, but also microcurrent and red and infrared light therapy and Gua Sha. And we're going to expand a little bit on the topic of Gua Sha today. But those are kind of support ideas and things to keep in mind when you embark on that process. So let's move on to our last topic of the day, the free guide on Gua Sha. So Gua Sha is an ancient East Asian massage practice that involves scraping the skin in order to create bruises. Gua Sha involves using a blunt, smooth tool to apply pressure and scrape the skin. It originally started on the body, but has since been adapted for the face, using a little bit more gentle strokes because the tissues are more delicate. But it has many benefits. It helps to increase circulation, but also helps break up fascia tension, which is the connective tissue that hugs all of our muscles and our organs and everything. And as you scrape the tool across your skin, you are depuffing it and bringing new blood into your skin. And when new blood is present, cell regeneration happens more quickly, which makes it easier for your skin to repair itself. And where there is more blood, there is also more lymph. So it also helps to remove toxins from your skin, which can cause more rapid aging, of course. And our skin, we often forget our skin needs to be manually worked on to age well. We can't be scared of redness and petechia that you get with Gua Sha. Additional benefits of Gua Sha includes reducing inflammation, that may be caused by, a poor diet, too much alcohol, some illness or infection. And the one thing that makes it hard to reduce inflammation is lack of movement. So this helps create movement in the tissues. And with gentle pressure in the correct directions, facial gua sha encourages the breakdown of stagnation and helps to release accumulated toxicants in the tissues. And it also, by extension, helps to ease facial muscle tension as a natural alternative instead of paralyzing the muscle. Gua sha tools can be made from various stones. So you have rose quartz and jade being the most popular. And when looking for a gua sha stone, look for one that will fit well in your hand for ease of use. It's not really about the shape or the size, it's really how easy it fits in your hand. And it should be smooth and rounded as well to make sure it doesn't scrape, and be able to hug the curves of your face. So the best tool really will have different angles and shape, for example, a butterfly shape or a heart shape, as this will help reach curved areas like the jawline and the neckline. Always be sure that the gua sha stone you buy is genuine. A gua sha tool should be a little bit heavy because of the weight of the various stone used. You don't want it to be just plastic. Cheap gua sha tools made of other materials such as plastics could cause damage to the skin. And there's also the microplastics to be aware of, right? So first and foremost, it's important to choose the right tool. Another thing to keep in mind when doing gua sha is to always remember to apply an ample amount of oil on your skin before starting. This helps reduce friction and allows the tool to glide smoothly across your face or body. And lastly, remember that consistency is key when it comes to seeing results with gua sha. You can incorporate this practice into your wellness routine regularly for optimal benefits. For a complete protocol and additional information, such as how to take care of your stone, you can join the newsletter at lymphinitiatives.com/newsletter and have access to not only that guide, but also a vault with all past guides. All right, this is what I had for you today in the Lymph Lounge. Let me know what you think. I love reading your comments. Again, this podcast is available on Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify podcast platforms, as well as my own website, lymphinitiatives.com/podcast, in the form of a blog post and also on YouTube. So make sure you go ahead and follow and turn on notifications, depending on which platform you're on. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you in the next episode.